These are digital calipers, and we use digital calipers for measuring sheet and also sterling silver wire and copper wire, and it allows us to find out the depth or the thickness of those bits of metal. These are ring sizes. So these are what we slide onto our finger to see what size ring we need to make. They come in half sizes and it's just really handy. We use these with a ring mandrel. These are dividers. We use dividers for measuring circles, for scratching into our pieces. We use them for lots of different things with jewellery making. They're just a super handy tool to have in the studio. We also always have a metal ruler in the studio. We use this for measuring sheet metal and also our wire. It's in centimetres on one side and inches on the back. So it's important to have hammers in the studio, and one of our favourites is this frets chasing hammer. And this is one that we use a lot. We use this end for texturing and this end for hammering pieces flat, and we use it for a bit of riveting. So we also have another version of the chasing hammer, and we've got these two versions because the frets hammer is beautifully made, but it's also quite expensive. So we also have a more economical option, which is this one here, which is also made in Asia. We use that a lot in the studio. We've done heaps of testing on it, and it's a really great little hammer. This is a dead blow mallet, and it's made in Germany. We love dead blow mallets. We use them for shaping rings. And the great thing about dead blow mallets are these end bits won't mark the metal, so you can use them for shaping a ring around a mandrel, for flattening out pieces of metal before you measure them, and they're really, really heavy. They've got this metal steel shot inside them, and that allows it to hit the surface really hard. The other thing we use a lot is a steel bench block. We use these for when we want to stamp a hallmark, if we're doing any kind of metal stamping, or if we'd like to add a hammered texture. So for example, using this hammer, we'd hammer onto this surface to make it have a texture. If we're wanting just to move metal but not add a texture, then we use this rubber block. And so we would often use this hammer here on this surface to flatten out pieces of metal to measure them before we make a ring. You can also get it as a set together. So you can actually use the rubber block like this, or your steel block in there, and that's really good if you haven't got a lot of space in your studio. This is a jeweller's saw, and we use these 100mm saw frames to saw metal and wire in the studio. So when we're sawing metal, we're not going to hit the metal on the back of the saw, which can happen if you've got a smaller saw frame. We also have saw blades. These come in packs of 12 or 144. And these can break a lot when we're making jewellery, so we do like to have some different sizes on hand and just some spare backup ones when they do break, particularly when you're learning you will break blades. This is a bench pin, and this connects onto any table to turn it into a jeweller's workbench. You can see there's a little clamp on the back of it here. We use these to rest our pieces on when we're sawing and filing. These are flush cutters. These ones are made in Asia, and we also have a set that are made in Germany. They're both really good quality, and we use this for basically snipping wire up to about 1.5mm, and it gives you a nice flat cut on one side and a pointy cut on the other. These are German shears. We use these for cutting our solder into little pallions, so little pieces, and we also use it for cutting metal around the base of bezel set rings, so cutting off that sheet that's connected to the bezel. This is cut lube, beeswax, and a blade butter. These are all used for the same thing, to make the saw blade run really smoothly over the metal. And if you don't have any of these, you can also use something like a candle as well. Just as long as you regularly apply it to the blade when you're sawing, it will make your sawing a lot easier. So after sawing our metal, we usually file, and it's really important to have good quality files. These are hand files, and you can have a couple of these. I normally get them in a cut 2. And the one that we use the most in the studio is this one, which is a half round slim file, so it fits inside rings. And when you receive it, it comes as a separate file and a handle, and you just need to attach the handle to that. So this is a tool that we use a lot in the studio, and it really helps us to hold on to pieces of metal. So with these ring clamps, they've got 2 ends that you can use, so you can clamp in on either end. So I tend to use the flat end when I'm working on a piece of metal and I want to hold that securely. Then I can either file or do what I need to do on that end. And I'll often use the other end when I'm working on rings. And that helps me to hold the rings. It's really good if I'm setting or if I need to file or sand that ring. And then these are needle files, and needle files are great for getting inside small pieces and cleaning up your work. These are a cut 2, and this is the size that we generally use in the studio as well. So really, all you need when you get started is probably these 2 files for your studio. So this is one of the tools that we use in the studio for bending. It's a ring mandrel, and it has Australian sizing A to Z+6 on it. And this is a calibrated mandrel, so it means the sizing is going to be accurate on all of the mandrels, and it will match up with the ring finger sizer that we were using earlier. We also use pliers in the studio. These are round bending pliers, and we use these for bending the end of shepherd's hooks when we're making earrings. We also use flat pliers, and flat pliers are really good for holding onto pieces and for twisting the ends of earring posts. And we sometimes use them for opening jump rings. These are chain nose pliers. These are specifically for opening jump rings, and they're really good also for holding pieces. So we often use these 2 together if we need to hold with 2 pliers. These are half round pliers. We sometimes use these for making rings or for doing anything where we need to bend a piece of wire. And finally, these are ring bending pliers, and these are the pliers we use obviously to make a round ring, and they make life really easy, and you can bend super thick metal with these. So something that we use a lot when we're making jewellery, and a process that we do a lot, is sanding. And we sand using emery sticks. These are probably the most common ones that I use in the studio, but you can obviously get emery paper in any grade of sandpaper. It's actually wet and dry paper that we use, and this is a really good quality German paper. We also, once we've finished sanding, use this paper, and this paper is made by 3M. And it's polishing paper. So we can actually, once we've gone through this process, we can then use 4000, 6000 and 8000 to take our pieces up to a really nice high shine.